years old. We're going to look at some of the limiting factors now for the age of the earth based on the scientific evidence. In 1999, they announced in the newspaper, last weekend the world's population topped the 6 billion mark. In 1985, there were 5 billion people on planet Earth. In 1800, there were 1 billion people here. Just about everybody agrees, around the turn of 1800th century, there were about 1 billion people on planet Earth. There's just not much argument about this. And everybody agrees the population is growing rapidly. There's no argument there. But the world is not overcrowded. Don't fall for that overcrowded propaganda. The entire world's population today could fit inside the city limits of Jacksonville, Florida, where we are. This city where you guys live has 25 billion square feet. You could fit everybody in the world in here twice. The world's not overcrowded. Have you driven across Nebraska? Or Kansas, or Wyoming, or Montana? Drive across Texas. Anybody ever driven across Texas before? You can go for 3 days. Are we still in Texas? Yeah, you're still in Texas. Look, if it's overcrowded where you are, move. Okay? Because the rest of the world is not overcrowded. All right. I was out digging dinosaurs last summer in Colorado, and I said to this lady that owned the ranch, I said, ma'am, how big is your ranch? She said it's 213,000 acres. I said, what's property cost out here? She said, oh, about $17 an acre. I was up in Barrow, Alaska, last September. Talk about north. That's as far as you can get. You get Arctic Ocean after that. We went up and touched it, of course, you know. I said, how many people live in this county? He said, well, this county is called a borough up here. It's the North Slope Borough. It is about twice the size of Ohio. It's about 50% bigger than the whole state of Florida. Just one county has a population of 10,000. I said, what's property cost up here? He said, cost? Come on up. I'll give it to you. How much you want? Back when Jesus was here, the population on planet Earth was about 250 million people. 250 million. There were lots of censuses done at that time. That's why Jesus was born in Bethlehem. I mean, all the rulers tried to count their people so they could tax them, you know. Nothing's changed over the years. So it's pretty well established that the population was about 250 million at the time of Christ, and it's now 6 billion. And if you plot the numbers on a graph, you can see it points clearly to the entire population starting about 4,400 years ago, when 8 people got off of Noah's Ark. See, if you start with 8 people having kids and grandkids and great-grandkids, you can get a population of 5 or 6 billion in a few thousand years. So if you believe in evolution, you got a serious problem. Because you think man's been here for 3 million years. Do you realize in 3 million years the population would have grown? Right now there'd be 150,000 people per square inch. That would be crowded. See, God told him pretty clearly to replenish the earth, fill the earth, go have lots of kids. He designed the world to be inhabited. That's why he formed it, Isaiah 45 tells us. He formed it to be inhabited. He wants lots of people here. But Satan, of course, wants the opposite of what God wants. We got people that believe just the opposite of what the Lord wants, like Jacques Cousteau, who said, in order to stabilize world population, we need to eliminate 350,000 people a day. Nice guy, Jacques. Ted Turner said we need a 95% decline in world population levels. Okay, Ted, you first. There are some people who would like to reduce the population of this planet to 1/2 billion as soon as possible. They think we're hurting Mother Earth. And there's some powerful folks. We cover much more on that on our seminar, on a college series. We'd offer our seminar in 4 different college classes, everything where we chased every rabbit and kicked every dog as we had no time constraints. But I get more on that on CSE 101. Anyway, the population tells us the earth has not been here for billions of years. At least man hasn't. Now, I don't know what's going to happen in the future about these idiots reducing the population, you know, with chemtrails and all that. We'll see, but we'll cover more on that in video 7. The fact is, the population says it's not been billions of years. Actually, scientists are agreeing now that there is a genetic bottleneck sometime in man's past. This article said that based on the DNA studies, they're putting a bottleneck theory. There used to be, just about everybody was wiped out down to just a few people. And we all descended from just a few people on Earth. Well, duh. I even know the names of some of those people. Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Yeah, there was a bottleneck. Did you know the galaxies up in the sky are spinning, but they're going different speeds? The stars in the galaxy are going different speeds. If the stars in the middle are going faster than the stars at the outside. If the galaxies were billions of years old, they would no longer have these spiral arms. The spiral arm galaxies are proof they are not billions of years old. So if somebody wants to believe they are, okay, you believe whatever you want, but it goes against the clear scientific evidence from the galaxies. They cannot be billions of years old. Stars blow up about every 25 to 30 years. If it's a little one, they call it a nova. If it's a big one, they call it a supernova, okay? But about every 25 or 30 years, a star explodes. Well, they search the heavens with the Hubble telescope, and they can not even find 300 supernova rings. Question, if the universe is billions of years old, why aren't there billions of supernova rings? Why less than 300? Which would mean less than 10,000 years. Yeah. Some people say, well, new stars are forming in Crab Nebula. No, there is no evidence of new stars forming. There are some spots getting brighter, and you can interpret that as new stars forming if you'd like, but it's not proof a new star is forming. Could be the dust is clearing and there's a star behind it. Any freshman law student could tear your argument apart in a court of law. Textbook says it takes billions of years for red stars to turn to white stars. That's what the books teach. That is simply not correct. We have overwhelming evidence that stars do change. They fall apart, they burn out. They change from red stars to white stars. There seems to be pretty good evidence for that. But we also have evidence it does not take billions of years. All the ancient astronomers said Sirius was a red star. Everybody just 2,000 years ago was describing Sirius as redder than Mars, one of the red stars. Today, it's a white dwarf. We know what happens in less than 2,000 years. Don't tell me it takes millions of years. That's simply not correct. We have, one good experiment's worth a pound of theory any day. And we've got experimental evidence we can see and test and prove it doesn't happen that long. Some of the planets are still hot, but they're cooling off. They're radiating more heat than they gain from the sun. They can't be billions of years old. It's just not logical to say Jupiter, which is losing heat, is billions of years old. It just can't be. Jupiter has a little moon called Ganymede. Ganymede has a strong magnetic field. When it was discovered about this strong magnetic field, they said, wow, that's strange. That indicates a hot core, and yet Ganymede should have cooled off billions of years ago. I wonder why it still has such a strong magnetic field. Well, I can tell them why. You see, about 6,000 years ago, God created everything. Ganymede's not even 6,000 years old yet. Well, a few days older than that. It's real simple. Saturn has rings around it, but the rings are unstable and they're moving away from the planet. There are all kinds of factors that are affecting the rings of Saturn. Gravitational pulls and things like that. There's a good article about it in the book by Walt Brown, In the Beginning. Saturn's rings cannot be billions of years old. That fits the biblical theory that everything was created about 6,000 years ago. Okay, the moon is going around the earth. How many knew that already? The moon goes around the earth. Okay? Did you know as the moon goes around, it's gradually getting farther away? We're slowly losing the moon. It's only a couple inches a year, about 3 inches a year, so it's no big deal, nothing to worry about. Plus, there's nothing you can do about it anyway, okay? But the moon is getting farther from the earth every year. Now, kids, this is going to be complicated, so listen carefully. The moon is getting farther from the earth every year. So that means that it used to be closer. How many can figure this out? Now, stay with me, okay? All right. Well, if you bring the moon in closer, you start to create a problem because the moon causes the tides. Now, you folks in Jacksonville probably have to worry about the tides, don't you? If a hurricane hits during high tide, you got a serious problem on your hand. Well, if you brought the moon in closer, the tides would be higher because of a law known as the inverse square law. If you brought the moon into 1/3 the distance, you take the 1/3, inverse it, and square it. It's 9 times the gravitational pull. And if you run all the math on this, you'll find out about 1.2 billion years ago, the moon was whizzing around just above the surface of the earth. Now, way before that, you're going to have a serious tide problem. So that explains what happened to the tall dinosaurs. They got mooned. Comets are flying around through space, but comets are constantly losing material. That's what the tail is blowing off of a comet. It's losing part of itself, okay? You can't just keep losing and losing. Pretty soon, it's gone. You know, it's kind of like your checkbook. See, if your outgo exceeds your income, your upkeep will be your downfall every single time. Well, these comets are losing material, and it's been estimated they can't last more than about 10,000 years. Okay, well then I have a question. If the Earth is billions of years old, and if the universe is billions of years old, why do we still have comets? I mentioned this in a seminar one time, that this is an evidence that the universe is not billions of years old. Just the very existence of comets, like Halley's Comet, it proves it's not billions of years old. And this one atheist went home and devoted an entire website against me. There are now over 1,000 anti-Hovind websites. Type in Kent Hovind on the search engine and watch your computer melt. They hate me out there. So we spent about 2 months here